Alright, Jeff here, and I am back as promised in my video that I posted last night. I did get the other package in the mail. I actually got two in the mail. I think these were probably the only other two that I had of used stuff from Discogs that came in today. And so I've got a lot to show. I'm glad it didn't come in yesterday because this would have been too much with the video stuff that I showed yesterday. Nothing super major, but I am going to blow through this so it's not super long. So I had mentioned this was the main thing I went to this one place looking for, and that is the other Striper picture disc single. So this one came out, and see, it's got two songs. This is from their newest album. This is number 311 of only 350, whereas the other two were 400. So this one came out back in November, and then I double checked on what I was saying last night about the other two, and they did just come out in January of this year. So this one was in November. Those two just came out like 2 weeks ago, and so there's three of them, and one from each of the last three major albums. Take a look at this one real quick. It's got the album cover on the cover, of course, with the glare. See, I'm doing this in daytime, and so the windows cause more glare. And then the back has sort of from the album too. Let's get it away from the lamp. I don't know why the lamp's on in the middle of the day. We can kill that right now. I don't think that makes too much difference, so less glare. Alright, so now we can add it to the other two that we got. And so now I have all three of them. So I went to get that, scanned this particular guy's catalog, and oh my gosh, it's like I wanted to buy half the catalog. And I think I did. Except I bought everything that was like in the $5 to $6 range. So he had tons of stuff, tons of metal. But it was priced, accordingly, anywhere from, 15 to 50 to up or whatever. So lots and lots of stuff. But I only grabbed some of the cheaper stuff. So I grabbed this because it was a really good price. So Kerry Livgren's, his first Seeds of Change album. So this was his first release right after he left Kansas. Kerry Livgren was a guitar player for Kansas. So this was his first solo album. And then after this, everything is labeled as AD for the most part because he put together a band and it was called AD, or Kerry Livgren's AD, but it was mainly AD. But this was the first solo album. So what makes this significant? If you're not familiar with this, it's pretty cool. Most metal fans probably are, but so he's a guitar player and he didn't really have a band, so he has a bunch of guest vocalists. And Steve Walsh is on here, from Kansas. He sings on a song. But we've also got Ronnie James Dio. So it's like, and he sings The Mask of the Great Deceiver and To Live for the King. So, I mean, Kerry Livgren he became, started getting spiritual, became a Christian, and then left Kansas to do this. And so this is, for all intents and purposes, a Christian album. And we got Ronnie James Dio singing two songs on here. And and so we've got other singers, none that jump out at me aside from Ronnie James Dio and Steve Walsh, except we do have vocals and background vocals and things along that line by Mylon Lefevre. Now, Mylon Lefevre, if you've been watching the past couple videos, I've been picking up his stuff. He is real brief background. So his family, the Lefevres, are a gospel band, and back in the 60s he released a gospel album under Mylon Lefevre, and he also sang with his family prior to that as a kid, the Lefevres featuring Mylon. In the 70s he kind of went mainstream rock and roll. His music was real boogie woogie. He wrote songs for Elvis, and he was a songwriter, got pretty famous in the songwriting industry. And like I say, did a handful of albums under Mylon, his name Mylon, with the band Holy Smoke. And see, there was always that spiritual religious aspect in there. Holy Smoke, he had Rock and Roll Resurrection, things like that. There was always some of that spirituality. He did occasionally do like rock and roll versions of like a hymn or something. So he kind of still had it there, but it was still kind of more of just a rock and roll, boogie rock, southern rock, just mainstream rock. And I showed a couple of his mainstream albums a couple of videos ago, and I had been picking up a lot of his. I was more familiar with his Christian rock stuff, or Christian pop rock, electric rock, pop, whatever, that he started doing in the later 80s. Well, this came out in, what did I say, 79? 1980. 1980. Mylan appears on here. He sings a song. He does some background vocals, things like that. So 1980 would have been in between Mylan's mainstream releases. His last mainstream album was in 79, and then his first Christian album, Return to Christian Music, was like around 1982. So this would have been in that time frame where, in between, where he was probably, I don't know, not recording, but he was working with this. So it's a pivotal album, not only in Kerry Livgren's career, but it's cool to have Ronnie James Dio guest vocal on here, and it's just cool with all the different guests that are on here. I love AD, and so I had to get that. And then speaking of Mylan, here is Mylan Lefevre. This is another one of his mainstream ones. This is Love Rustler. Now this was 1978. 2 years before the Kerry Livgren album. Now he did release one more after this. I think it was the Rock and Roll Resurrection or something. He did release another one after this in like 1979 that I do not have yet. So there would have been one more. Then he took a break and did Christian music in 82, and he did that album in 1980-ish. So this is cool. I wanted to pick up all of his stuff, and this was just good to have to add to it, because now that gives me like 3 of those mainstream releases, whereas I have most all of his vinyl from his Christian Mylan and Broken Heart days. But anyway, so that's that. Now, also surprised to find this for a really good price. Morgan Cryer. You're going to say, Morgan who? Yeah, you have no clue. Morgan Cryer, 80s, 1986. Excuse me. Christian, kind of an edgy rock sound. He had one big hit from this, Pray in the USA, which was an anthem that everybody, it kind of made it big, in the Christian station at the time. So he's kind of guitar-driven rock, yet still somewhat in the contemporary Christian music vein. So I know he's had some other releases. This is the only one I think I ever owned. It's still in the shrink wrap, but it is open. Now, what makes this significant is, and some of you probably already know this, depends on if you're fans or not. So on here, it doesn't tell us who plays on the album, but it does tell us who wrote the music. Let me just throw some of these names out and see if you recognize. It's going to be the same 2 names, so hopefully you'll know. So almost every song, but not every song. So first song, music by Ty Tabor. Second song, words by Morgan Cryer, Ty Tabor. Music by Ty Tabor. Third song, words by Morgan Cryer, Doug Pinnick. Music by Doug Pinnick. Anyway, you get the gist. Doug Pinnick, Ty Tabor. Doug Pinnick, Ty Tabor. Music, Ty Tabor. Music by Morgan Cryer. There you go. Music by Ty Tabor and Morgan Cryer. Music by Ty Tabor. Words, that one's a whole different one, and that's about it. So, it does tell us who plays on here. All right, great. I totally missed over this. All right, so it's mainly the songwriting skills. I don't see. All right, guitar is by about 5 different guys, one of which is Ty Tabor. Anyway, I'm not looking through all of here, but hopefully most of you are familiar with who Ty Tabor and Doug Pinnick are. They are the core section guitar and bassist and vocalist from King's X. So, Star Song is what the label is on. Star Song is, at least on the back of that list, as being in Texas. I don't know if that's where their home base is. King's X, Ty Tabor, Doug Pinnick, and all that are Texas. There's a lot of things. I know King's X has kind of shunned their religious background, but they used to do stuff like this. They were part of his touring band, from what I understand. So they were heavily involved in Christian music. Their first album is full to the hilt of biblical themes and just Christian worldview themes. Second album, a lot of that too. Third album, quite a bit of it in there too. And then by about the 4th album, you start seeing a difference, and not as much. And I know that at this point, Doug is kind of outspoken against his strict religious upbringings. But this is one of the early stuff that we see before King's X was in existence as King's X to the rest of the world is their involvement here. So I have a digital copy of this for years, but wanted to go ahead and grab that. It was there and it was for inexpensive. Now let me run through. Most of these are going to be more along that line of Christian popish rock type stuff. 77s. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, everybody knows this is one of my favorite bands. Kind of an alt rock. They change sounds periodically, so every album's a little different. They've reissued a lot of their stuff on 180 gram records and colors and deluxe edition sets in the past couple years, and I bought them all. This is actually going back to their third album. The first three albums, at least, have not been reissued, and so maybe they will be one day. But this was on there. It was fairly cheap. I opened it up and took a look at it, and it looks new, better than I expected it to be for the price that I paid for it. But I had to grab this. Their first three albums are classics. All their albums are classics. Anyway, 77s, just referred to as the 77s. Now, Brian Duncan, I've mentioned him before because I got one of his recently. And again, I thought, well, since I've got all of his stuff with Sweet Comfort Band, and I even got back to the old Sweet Comfort Band, and then this is definitely contemporary Christian pop, but this was stuff that my wife and I just tore up as back in the days in the mid 80s. This was a kind of, it's not contemporary Christian in the sense that it's, praise or anything. It's really upbeat, fun-loving, satirical, just cool stuff. Anyway, and so his first solo album after Sweet Comfort and his second solo album, Holy Rollin', just two of my favorite albums, and it gets better. And so now I've got I think his three earliest albums, and I think there's one or two more that are available on vinyl that I want to get. This one is still sealed, and actually I dropped it, but it had the little 4-1 sticker on there that Christian bookstores used to have. This one is in just great condition. It's been well cared for, so glad to get that. Just some Brian Duncan. This was strictly a hole filler. DeGarmo and Key, another contemporary pop rock band. And to be honest, I was never into DeGarmo and Key back in the day. To me, they were too much of a light rock. But when I first started buying vinyl a few years ago, I bought a package of records from a guy, and it included like the early DeGarmo and Key catalog, like 6 records. So now I'm like, okay, great. Now I've got a partial collection. So whenever I see one like this, I go ahead and pick it up. And I think I've almost got all the records now. I have to go back and look. I'm not sure. There's one more I think that I got, and I can't think of the name of it. It's the one with the guitar on the cover, and it's kind of just white. I think that one is on vinyl that I don't have. But I think this was one of the... Now this one I am familiar with because my roommate, when I was in the military, this album came out and he had this. This is 1985. Yeah, this is the year I moved in with him. So this one, and then Street, the other one I got the other day, Street, whatever, that came out when I was rooming with him too, and we used to listen to that all the time, and it is pretty edgy. Anyway, so this was great. I just, again, wanted to fill the hole. So, Whiteheart, this one's still sealed. This is Hotline. I'm a huge Whiteheart fan. They are not contemporary. Their first album would have been contemporary Christian popish, and I got light all over here. And they had a different singer, Steve Green. He later went solo and just sang really mellow music, more of a contemporary Christian stuff. Whiteheart they started off as kind of a mellower pop rock band. Second album was a step up, different singer, and they became definitely a little more on the rock side of the pop. By the third album, even more so. Same singer here, and then after this they changed singers and they had the singer that they had pretty much the rest of their history. I only have one of the albums after this, so I do want to get those. But this was a cool one. I liked it. It's just some good stuff, and it was still sealed, and it was really cheap, so I grabbed it. Now, second guy that I bought from. I didn't buy as many, so I'm almost done. But same thing. I went out looking for an album. I don't know, for some reason this popped up on my... I have digital copies of these two albums by this band, and I was listening to it, and I thought, that'd be kind of cool to have on vinyl, just because I liked it back in the day. Again, it's more contemporary pop rock. band called 2020. They're a Christian band. Like I said, keyboard driven, but still got a little rocky edge. Now, I really wanted their second album, Get Altered. They do. That one I think I listened to the most, and it's definitely more edgy. They do a cover on there of Hold Your Head Up, which we used to love because it just sounded really cool. But it turns out that particular record is, I don't know why, outrageous. People are asking like 30, $40 for it. This one I got for like 5. And this is one I listened to the other day. It's definitely a little more lighter rock than the second album, but I still liked it. It was back in the day. Back in the day there was only so many Christian metal bands, and when I was listening to only Christian music, there was only so many bands you could listen to because there weren't that many out there. They weren't that popular back in '85 when, all you could get was like the first Blood Good and Barren Cross and some of the early stuff by Stryper and things like that. So the broader musical taste was there. We listened to pop, we listened to rock, anything close, and this was one of the bands. Great stuff. Carmen, the Champion, probably one of my top 3 Carmen albums. Now, over the past year or two, I've been picking up a lot of his earlier stuff, though, which I wasn't as familiar with, and it was a little more lighter stuff. I think there's only 1 or 2 that I'm missing from the early days. This is the one that came out. My roommate had this. We listened to it all the time. And then from here out, I think I bought a lot of his stuff. He is pop, very upbeat though and fun. And he always has fun songs for kids. He's got narrative type stuff. And this song, The Champion, on here, it's just cool. It's like a metaphoric story of Jesus fighting Satan in a boxing ring. And it's got the announcer and all of that stuff. So it's just fun stuff. And so I saw this and I'm like, yes, I need this. This is one of the ones that I've really been looking to get. And so I grabbed that, and I'm excited because these are in great condition. Now, these next 2 are not Christian. So there, you've been pushing through that. I just wanted to go ahead and get another Saga album. I was actually listening to one of their albums earlier this morning, and this one came out, Heads or Tails, came out, I guess, after the big one, but Turn Me Loose. Tonight I'm on the loose. I think a 38 special. They had a big hit on MTV. I think I saw them open for Kiss or somebody. It was a really weird mix. But anyway, I have a couple of their albums. They have a lot. They're kind of labeled as kind of a prog rock band. Most of the stuff tends to be more commercial, radio-friendly rock. And again, I saw this. It was a good price. It fills a hole because I have the albums on either side of this, I believe. So I grabbed that. This was a total blind buy. I bought it strictly for the name and the look. And even though on Discogs it was listed as heavy metal, I'm pretty sure it may not be. But I took a chance because the price was right. The band's called Saint. Yes, of course, it's not the Saint that I do have everything by. It's not the Christian metal band Saint. I don't even know why. It just caught my eye. I'm like, Saint, that sounds funny. It's funny that they, had the name. It came out in 1984. So yeah, the Christian Saint would have been just starting too. So I don't know who came first, who whatever. They look like fun-loving guys. Look at that. I mean, I'm going the wrong way. Fun-loving guys. And I just took a chance. I haven't even put it on yet. I'm going to check it out. Maybe I'll let you know next time what I thought. The guy's got a flowery-looking feather shirt on. And anyway, so I just thought, for the price, I'm going to take a stab at it. Blind buy. Grabbed it. That is it. I will take no more of your time. Anyway, that's it for now. I don't think I have anything major coming in the next few days, so I won't be back immediately. But I will see you soon. Thanks a lot. Come back. Watch more. Have a great day. Rock on, and God bless.